All right, welcome to the Golden Glory Podcast, the at least planned bi-weekly MMO show that dives beneath the surface, asks the hard questions, and uncovers how you, the player, can maximize your impact in-game. Our current focus is still the upcoming MMORPG from Artcraft Entertainment, Crowfall. This episode is 8, Crab Shooters. We are broadcasting live Tuesday, March 24th, 2015. Why don't everybody say hello? Andres?
Hello. Hopefully everyone's having a great week. I don't know what everyone else has been playing lately. We've all been so excited about Crowfall coming out. I repatched up WildStar, and I've been actually watching some people doing, in-game stuff and enjoying it. So I'm looking forward to maybe actually getting back and doing some playing.
Nice.
As we waste some time, you know what I mean? We gotta find things to keep the PCs busy.
Nice.
Nice.
How about you, Mike? What have you been up to?
Well, today I picked up Bloodborne.
Ooh.
And it's brutal. It is very brutal. It's definitely getting me ready for the carnage that Crowfall will eventually bestow upon players. My son actually showed me how to really play it. He really did a good job today when he got home from school. He's 17. He was a big Dark Souls player, and I wasn't. So I was struggling with the first little map, and he wrecked it. He did good. So I'm learning from the kid right now. But other than that, that's besides following Crowfall stuff, that's what I've been doing.
Hey, Mike, I don't want to alarm you, but there's something stalking you from behind.
Yes.
It's a furry stalker.
It's a Ganeshan. It's
right.
the guinea pig. No, it's our cat. This is Jenny, by the way.
Hi, Jenny.
She's just kind of hanging out there.
Cool.
Well, how about you, Lethabi? How have you been doing this past week?
Pretty good. I missed the show last week, so I've been kind of itching. This wasn't going to be one of our show weeks, right? So I didn't know, but
It never is one of our show weeks.
We can't
true.
count to 2.
We only do shows on weeks that are not our show weeks. But, I mean, with the Kickstarter coming to an end, how could we not? And with all the information we got the EK drop, so I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been playing too many games, really. It's been really busy at work and all that and all those adult excuses, but I'm definitely looking forward to the next couple of days with Crowfall finishing up and seeing what's next for that whole shebang.
Nice. And, of course, I am Chief Sarkhan. I've been pretty busy this past week. I actually picked up the Elder Scrolls Anthology, or whatever you call it, and I started doing old school gaming on Sundays to...
Don't you just mean gaming when you're old?
Whichever. Games that were new when I was almost young. How about that?
That's fair.
That's fair? I wasn't young, but I was almost young.
Yeah, that seems...
And I've been kind of playing around with that. Obviously, keeping up with the Crowfall and the Golden Glory podcast is almost a full-time job as many times as we do shows. I mean, one of these days we'll actually be on a schedule. But until then, how about we have the news?
Okay, from the G&G News Desk, here is the latest in Crowfall news. Big news today was unveiled during the Crowns and Crows podcast today. Tomorrow night, we will be having a special episode of our podcast, and their show will be immediately following. We will be hosting the Crowfall devs here with a really cool interaction with them. We're going to see Gordon Walton, J. Todd Coleman, Thomas Blair, and Tully will be there, and we're going to ask our own set of questions and also questions from the community. We do look forward to getting some insight from them. How cool is that, guys, that they're going to spend some time with us?
You're telling me all 4 Beatles are going to be here?
All 4 Beatles.
Absolutely. Even
I hope you
Ringo.
guys saw the poster. That was fun to me.
Yeah,
That
the
was
band is back
awesome.
together, like
That's
we
right.
said when we
That's-
started this show, right?
Nice.
So again, our special episode tomorrow night, this same channel at 8:00 Eastern, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We look forward to that episode with the devs. Immediately following on the Crows and Crowns podcast, I always flip that up. It's Crowns and Crows. Immediately following, the devs will then join them as well. So exciting news there. Great opportunity there. We look forward to that conversation. In other news, the Crowfall Kickstarter has been in full swing for nearly a month now. The campaign is now in its final 2 days. At this stage, the campaign is, in fact, as I look over, currently at 1.47 million. So we're about $30,000 away.
471? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're actually I just hit refresh. It jumped up another 1,000 while we were doing our little bit of prep there.
I just dropped another 1,000.
So the challenge is we hit 1.5 before the show's over, right?
Keep your credit card in your pocket, lethality.
So what has happened since our last episode a week ago? We've seen mounts and caravans now are unlocked, and the bonus mounts for the backer and above tiers, so $60 tier and over, get a bonus mount. Since our last show also, there's now been 1 month VIP for all pledge levels. A pack animal for all backers has been
Bring on the
achieved.
pigs.
So we'll get our pack pig. The God's Reach rule set, the 3-faction rule set, has been included. That's now in. Plus, we get the artifacts and relics system. There's now bonus tax-free parcels for all pledge levels. And, of course, with the EK update, we're going to talk about that today. That means a little bit more maybe than it did before. And also now VR support is now in the game. Now, they did talk a little bit about how that's kind of an experiment and it's something that they want to play with. I think we might talk a little bit about that later in the show, but ultimately it's to me it's a cool thing that's fun to play with. I'm not sure it's going to be a core element of the game. And then we have now very closely to the new pledge goal of 1.5 million, which will unlock another rule set, the Infected, a 12-faction rule set, and the Minotaur Myrmidon archetype, which looks pretty awesome. So a lot of stuff there, a lot of stuff to talk about. Can't wait to get on with the show. And that is all I have from the G&G News Desk. On with the show.
All right. Onrez, I think we had a contest, did we not? We should probably take care of that right now.
Yeah, so in my quest for Crowfall loot, may have overlooted, if that's even a thing. I don't think that's actually a thing. It could be. I happen to have stumbled across more Crowfall pins than I believe I'm legally allowed to own currently. So what I decided to do is ask the Crowfall community to do some creative Tully work, and we had some amazing stuff. Chrissy had a couple of really great ones. There was this nice where every world set was a Tully world set, but the winner was by Stro, and it was troubling, but troublingly awesome.
Yes.
Yes, right? I'm like going...
I don't know if I've seen this.
Oh, yes. So the Fey Assassin with Tully was something that I'm hoping maybe Christmas cards or something will be made. So I already sent information out to Stro for a DM, and I will mail Stro a pin from Crowfall ASAP. Thank you, community, for all chiming in. We all got great laughs out of it. And if you haven't taken a chance to go through the forum, please do. There is some really, really creative artwork there.
Yeah, it looks like Stro is in chat with us. That was precious, buddy. That was precious.
Oh, quality work.
Nice.
Quality work. So, like I said, check your forum, Crowfall forum message boards. I sent you a message. Just send me back your mailing address. I'm going through the forums because I'm sure going to get fake tweets from everyone saying that they're Stro, so that I'll try to send them a pin. That's not going to happen.
I don't even have a pin yet, so that's really cool, rare loot.
Yeah, I collected one for you. I just haven't sent it to you yet.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Very
cool contest.
Well, I'll pivot from the happiness of the forums to a small minor rant. So we got an amazing amount of information about the Eternal Kingdoms, right? I mean, I must have spent 4 or 5 hours parsing through not only the information that the devs were kind enough to share about our Eternal Kingdoms, but to be honest, a lot of the forum stuff, I felt like the amount of information they gave us was enough to create some amazingly creative speculations. What I thought was a bit much was there were some people in the forums calling EKs nothing more than Care Bear hiding places, or pretty much telling people to go play a different game if they thought that if they were going to treat their EKs anything more than a lobby, because in their minds anything at all that keeps people from the campaigns somehow is negative. And I'm like, I understand, and again, they've been really clear. The devs have been clear that the campaigns are the main part of the game, and I'm great with that. I think that's going to be fun. But by the way that the devs have created the EKs, they have created a social crafting, economic, and or even guild mechanics, right? So there's so much there, and there's so much depth. I think it's insulting to the rest of the players to think that somehow if they don't want to stand around in campaigns and just be ganked by you 24/7, that they're somehow interfering or infringing on your enjoyment of the game. So we all know we're going to have to go out into campaigns to get the resources. I mean, we are. We really are. But that doesn't mean that my econ PvP efforts from setting up and working in my EK can't be just as crippling and campaign infringing as somebody who happens to be really good with a really big sword standing around this point of interest. So it's kind of a rant, but I mean, I just see that there's a lot of depth. There's a lot of what could be right now about EKs, and I'm excited about what the devs have shared about it and the fact that it's going to be more than a lobby. And if I want to spend my time and resources blowing it on the EK, the PvPer should be excited about it, because that means I'm spending time and resources in my EK that are not actually going to be dropped into the campaign to maybe go against them. So I'm hoping that we get more information and that somehow the EKs don't pivot to be less than they are now. I'm hoping that they're more. So
I think that's an excellent point, James. I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah, so just real quick, I was just going to cover, I thought that there was a really good write-up on what the purpose of a kingdom and why do I want one. Was, they're really just smaller version of campaign worlds, not social lobbies. And you're the monarch. So I really think that it's, I really think the ability for us to spend time and effort to develop that, again, it takes resources out of the game. That changes campaigns. So I think anything that changes campaigns is actually a really good thing. And I think that it creates a ongoing life cycle and challenges. And if you think my EK is becoming too powerful, then get your guild together to create a rival trade hub. 2, keep me from getting resources by killing the people that give me resources in game. I think there are a lot of mechanics that allows to be disruptive. And so I don't think that having a great trade hub and enabling a trade hub is pay to win, in my opinion. I think it's win to be smart. So if I'm willing to be strategic and planning and spend time in the EKs, I think that's no different than people who are willing to be strategic and plan and do all the stuff that's actually in the campaigns. It's just a different place in a really large game. Yeah. So anyone got any thoughts? Sorry, it was a little rant, but
that's okay. I mean, like everything else, we get information, but then of course we have more questions with it. But I think honestly we don't see the whole picture yet, and they're talking about, of course, the main game, if you want to call it that, is the campaigns. That's where I guess progression is sort of created, and that's where rewards and resources are gotten. But really, I think the Eternal Kingdom is going to be important. I mean, it's the other half of the game, and it may not be required in that loose gamer term that everybody likes to use. But I mean, I think if folks think that it's going to be indifferent to the point where you're wasting time if you go there, they wouldn't have put it in the game if that was the case. And I mean, you need a counterpoint to the campaign, to the fighting. Like I used an analogy in chat earlier. Like, okay, if the campaigns are work, then the EK is home. You go to work and you go home, maybe. and what's that going to be like? So I think everybody that has that sort of I'm not blaming them yet because maybe all the information is not out yet, and maybe they don't.
Absolutely.
But I think the people that need that are saying what's this all about and why is this even here? They need to just hang on and learn a little bit more, because I think it's going to be more important and hopefully more fun than they're thinking it's going to be.
Part of the problem, though, is, and this is true with any sandbox game, instead of building a Rails where people are told how to do X, Y, and Z, for example, in a lot of games when a system's designed, you're told how to play the game. So here's the sandbox, but here are all of the different stations, and let me walk you from point A to point B to point C, and this is how it will look. A lot of what I see, and I think one of the issues, and one of the reasons why I think it's still kind of cloudy for a lot of folks, is because, to a degree, they're building a system where you just kind of let people loose and see what they do and how and what they make it. But I don't think EVE Online anticipated the kind of dynamics that game ended up having, especially when you look at all the different corporations and how they work and the relationships and all the stories and all the everything in there. I think what they built is a playground where stuff happened. And from what I'm getting, and again, I'm not a designer and I've no intentions of being a designer, but this is why sandboxers are so hard, because you see these pieces, these systems, and it's so hard to know how they work until you dump a bunch of people in there and let an ecosystem develop. So that, to me, I think is part of why. It doesn't mean we shouldn't keep asking questions. I think we definitely should. I love the questions I'm seeing, but it's still cloudy, I think, because I don't think it's kind of like, and I've used this analogy before, it's like reading the manual for the airplane. You don't really know what it's like until you get behind the cockpit and watch it fly.
Yeah, so my take on this is I think a lot of these negative type of comments, and I know Mike has been busy trying to counter them, and James is trying to counter all these negative points, and I think it's really good. And I think it comes down to a lack of understanding either in the general concept or, like you said, from a lack of information. So people that think the EKs are just going to be the lobby, I don't think completely understand how the game mechanic of PvP is even going to work. They're still thinking of it like a MOBA. Oh, I get to jump in a campaign and I'm going to kill nonstop until I'm done playing, and then I'm going to log out and I'm going to log back in and jump right back into nonstop killing. And I don't envision that the campaigns are that way at all. And if you ignore what happens in the EK, there's strategy there. Like you said, the econ. Well, if you're a bad PvPer and you don't get any resources because you don't want to craft, you just want to kill, well, guess what? You have nothing unless you have team support. If we dominate the EKs with econ and you get no resources or no resupplies, you go into a campaign with nothing, you're pretty much done. Yeah, you might go kill some people, but that's not the whole game. The strategy is the balance between how you do your EK, how do you do your campaign, how do teams work together and support each other more so than just let me rush out and kill some people. I think there's a huge misconception of what they expect the game to be. And that is causing a lot of these type of negative comments because they're basing it off of what they think the game should be, not what we think the game is being designed to do. And maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but go ahead, Mike.
Well, your point is exactly right. And there, in addition to that, there is a system that doesn't exist yet. There is a system that this game will need that does not exist in any way, shape, or form. And that is the social system within the game itself. The system and the relationships between players and guilds. That does not exist in the game yet. And a lot of the gaps are because there's no players in there yet.
Well, right. And take that a step further with specifics to the EKs and forming the guilds, forming the teams. You can't develop relationships in a campaign and work out strategy without having some time together first. And what better way than to set up your EK as a training ground where you control the rules and say, hey, I want half my guild to go to that side, half my guild to go to this side, and let's practice. Let's do a fake war here within our kingdom. Nobody can watch us develop our strategies, and we work out who's going to do what. Find out what people like to do what. Who wants to be the scout? Who wants to be the crafter? Who's going to build and develop the keeps that going to protect us when we need to run? Because there's going to be all of that in a campaign. And I think the sandbox, like you said, bringing it together and us developing our own systems to make all that work is the key essential here. And how the kingdoms and the campaigns are going to work together, that they're oversimplifying, it's just a housing area. It's just a lobby.
Yep. I think some people want Artcraft to say, how do you want us to play this? And I think to a degree what the devs are saying is, play it how you want to play it.
Anybody else got thoughts on that, or should we move on a little bit?
Well, I think the next topic will pivot in really well, because right now we're seeing a lot of people that are really focused on and passionately focused on the PvP aspect. But when you win your campaign, is what I ask these PvPers. Now what? You just face rolled, versus amazing odds, and you're walking out of there the victors. You're walking out with the Stanley Cup of ass kicking. Now what? What are you going to do? Where are you going to put that? You want to put that in a lobby so people just have to walk past it? No, you want it to be impactful. You get the export. You made the difference. I think the EKs, if they can, if it can work out well, I think it will perpetuate even more aggressive campaigns because of this, what we recently reached in one of our Kickstarters, lethality.
That's right. Which, of course, James is talking about the artifacts and relic system that was unlocked at 1.4 million, I believe. So those are interesting. And so basically, if you're not familiar, what they are is basically they're items that you bring back. You earn them in the campaigns. I don't know if we know. We'll talk about it. I don't know if we know exactly how they're earned. There's some hint to that. But you bring them back to your Eternal Kingdom, and you place these artifacts or relics in your Eternal Kingdom, whether in some sort of building. And what they do is they provide passive benefits. So as far as we understand, I think each player right now, they're thinking can have up to 3 active blessings. They're calling them blessings at a time.
Right.
So and I'm presuming that artifacts and relics, maybe there's other ways to get blessings as well. So anything the way that that there's a difference. The artifacts seem to be something that is more they're acquired by winning a campaign. So they sound more powerful in that they're granted to you after winning a campaign. You bring them back, and that benefit is granted, I think, to everyone that has parcel or is some type of land ownership in your Eternal Kingdom, from the sound of it. And relics also gathered in campaign, but apparently can also be crafted, which I didn't read till today. I think that's pretty cool. And those apparently affect a smaller group of people. But so those, and going back to what James just said, obviously, if those are giving you benefits and they have to be deployed in your Eternal Kingdom, you're going to want to take that in consideration, the type of temple you have for the type of relic you get and all that. So it's going to become strategic. I'm almost seeing the Eternal Kingdom as almost like a live interactive talent tree. Like, how will I, what kind of benefits will I assign myself for this next campaign, and that kind of thing. But
can I just want to jump in that I think that if the PvP focused, specifically the PvP focused guilds, want to turn the EKs into something more, then they get control of their rule sets. So if they get an awesome artifact, right, and then you turn your EK into open PvP, it actually becomes, if campaigns are the WWE main ring, then the EKs are just like what's around the ring, where someone can pick up a chair and whack. They're not part of the event. You can only get pinned when you're in the ring, but that doesn't change the fact that lots more can be going around that impact things that are in the ring. So, I mean, with the rule set changes and the controls, if Guild A gets the awesome relic of awesomeness, artifact, and anyone who goes there and prays at it gets a little plus for the campaign, turn on your rule sets, protect that before the next campaign, because you may be letting the people who are going to kick your ass next week get a free buff.
Yeah. And one tidbit on these, it seems that they're time limited. They will expire at some point, like any other buff maybe. Don't know how those times are sort of rendered, but it does say you can recharge them, or you will have to recharge them. So I don't know if they're consumed or if they become rechargeable, but that's going to play into it too. And also I was thinking like how stackable are they? So we know maybe we'll have 3 active blessings, but can you have more than one of the same type of blessing from a different source, and can those combine? Does that count as one slot? Just for a sake of an example, is your agility blessing, can there be more than one thing that contribute to it and still only take up 1 slot, and so on? But yeah, I mean, they should definitely. This probably is the most concrete example we have of how Eternal Kingdoms will affect campaigns.
And this plays into the whole, do you want to be a vassal to somebody else because of the access to those buffs? I look at the artifacts and relics from the completionist standpoint, go figure, of how many can I collect for my own personal land, whether I have vassals or not. This is a collection thing for me. They've appealed to my compulsiveness. Now, true, I can only have 3 of the buffs, but if you own them all, you can swap them out, keeping in mind that they do wear out, break down, and have to be either refound or remade, because everything kind of breaks eventually. But still, it adds another layer of dynamic that people are going to play differently. Do you make a kingdom with 500 vassals and you have everybody filled up and in there, or do you have a small concrete elite group that all merges together in a smaller kingdom, controls trade really well, has access to all the buffs, and you change them up based on the type of campaign you go into, because there'll be short campaigns, long campaigns, different rule sets. All of that's going to change how you want to go in and what buffs you pick, whether they're from relics, artifacts, or whatever else we haven't heard about yet, and how all those stack with the way you make your character and the runes you put on your character. So you might have buffs that you want to stack with certain runes for some kind of campaigns, but you swap them if you're going into a different type of campaign. I mean, the dynamic here is huge, and we have a sandbox to play in, and I can't wait. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Hey, Airwolf, do you think that possibly based on the complexity and the types of artifacts that Guild A gets, that it could create short-term alliances where now Guild B needs to suck up to Guild A because maybe they need that buff before they go into the second or third rule set? I think there's some opportunity for, forced short-term truces or alliances, even based on the complexity of how the EKs can work.
Well, for example, one of the effects that we've seen an example of is a 1% speed increase in skill learning, right? Passive skill learning. So we have that example. I think it's going to depend on what these relics will do. I think it's going to depend on how effective they are. And here's the big, I think this is where the gap is for a lot of folks, because on one hand, we've heard all this talk about meaningful trophies from the beginning, from the Play to Crush days. Meaningful trophies. We don't want a bunch of nonsense, wimpy stuff. We want meaningful trophies. Well, what do they mean by meaningful trophies? What is a meaningful trophy to me? Well, you win a campaign, you get an artifact, and Bill touched on this. This is a meaningful trophy, so the benefit's better. But how much benefit can it really give? Because what you want to be, the skill gaps we've heard talked about, where you don't want people one-shotting other team members. You don't want people going in being overpowered. So how big can that buff be before it becomes too big? But then how small can it be to where it becomes meaningless? Is it like food that, in an MMO, like a traditional MMO, you eat some food, you get a little 5% buff? It's kind of nice to have. It does affect the kill time, but you can exist without it. So that's the question I have. But the other piece that I have, and this is the part about this artifact system, when we talk about meaningful trophies, and Chief, I have you in mind with this one. Yes. While it's true we may only have 3 artifacts available, I feel it's important that we should be able to display our meaningful trophies in our Eternal Kingdom like a trophy case. I want to be able to display all of my spoils. I want to be able to show, and I know to some people this doesn't matter. Some people don't care about EK or whatever, but there are a lot of, if we're talking about meaningful trophies, we should be able to display our trophies to show, hey, look what we've won, look at what I've accomplished, because we know that I'm not going to be level 80 and be able to go out and show my awesome raid gear or something like that. But I think it's important that players can show what they've accomplished. And, whether, if it's not an awesome shoulder piece, let it be a meaningful trophy, so that what Chief can do is collect these artifacts. He can go out there, and that's his incentive to win, because he's the completionist. He can go out there, win these artifacts, bring them back, and display them like a trophy case. Trophies, where I went to school, we had a lot of trophies, and we didn't just show one or two of them, we showed them all. So that's something I think is important that should be under consideration, is a way to display the trophies in a meaningful way so that somebody can show, hey, look at what I've accomplished in the game, especially 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, if we play that long or whatever.
Well, yeah. Right. And that was what I was trying to say, is I think the ability to collect them, because I'm envisioning that you're going to have all these buffs available that you collect and you have on display, and when it's time to hit join campaign, or before that, you're going to be able to say, I want the following buffs, and you choose from a list. It's like you're stepping out the door, what do you want to take to dinner with you, right? I'm going to take this one, and this one, and you're going to hit the road and go to work, like Bill said, But the choices are there, and you can only get them from those that you own land on or are a vassal to somebody else's. So you have to have ownership, which means you're paying tax, or if it's tax-free plot, you're invested in that location. So while you can have temporary alliances, you have to convince somebody to let you plop down a plot on their land to get benefits for the buff. I mean, so there's huge dynamics between who has what available, have they collected all the choices, and do you have to do anything to use them if you don't personally own them? Just because you vassal to somebody, can he say, well, no, you can't use my buffs from this relic, from this temple, because I've restricted it? And I think they said it's an all or nothing, but...
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably a little restrictive if they did something like that, because it'd be hard to at least even manage and know what you're doing. And when it came time to say, actually use these things or select these, you would want to have to visit every campaign or every Eternal Kingdom and see what they have available. There's got to be an interface for that, I would imagine, so that you can prep yourself when you go into a campaign. But that is just something that just occurred to me too. This isn't like a battleground that lasts a half an hour or anything like that. I mean, can you really only pick 3 for the next 6 months? Is that how it works?
Well, remember, there's load documents. We can leave EK, so you can't load in with equipment. But does that mean I can't leave and say, I'm going to go play Scout, and Lethality has that run bonus?
Yep,
Damn
I
it,
don't know.
Hit the god of Fleet Foot. So next time I'm going to swing by there. Hey, guys, let's all grab that run bonus, because we're gonna sprint up to that new point of interest. So, I can't come in with any fresh equipment because that's locked in. But do buffs count as import and export rules because I am blessed versus carrying something? So that would be a huge thing.
Yeah, they have to have some weight to them, to the ones you decide to bring or activate. There's got to be something, because otherwise then it's going to become an annoying game of blessing management. Now we're heading to the mountain, let's all turn on these buffs or whatever, and that's not going to be fun. So it's going to have some weight, but at the same time it feels like they're committing to just a few things for potentially at least a month, if not longer, is also an interesting choice.
Well, I think they could manage that easily if there's like a cooldown to pray to the gods to swap out your buffs. Maybe you can only do it once an hour. Is the only the gods will only hear your plea of what buffs you want based on what you have available to you based on to your affinity, and you can swap it out once an hour. That would let you help do on-the-fly tactics, but not so significant that it would affect the long-term game. You're not just, I want to run fast now, and now I want to, dig ore faster. You got to make concrete choices, and maybe it's every 3 hours or 6 hours or once a day. But I think, like you're saying, I think the ability to change out your buffs throughout the campaign would have very significant strategic value to do that. Just like swapping a sword, well, you have one that's a durability or a strength of something, and you pick up another one by killing somebody or having a crafter make you one. You want to be able to swap it out. And I think the buffs need to be within the same vein, but there has to be a limitation to how you can do it. And it might be a specific location within the campaign that you have to go to.
Yeah,
well,
there might be a temple where you have to go to pray, and you take yourself out of the battle for 10 minutes, or something that's not fun, but some way that makes you commit to doing it or not. To change something about your strategy.
Yeah, because we have to go to a specific point to deposit things to export it out of the EK, right? The bank system, what do they call that thing? I forget.
The embargo.
Summoning circle. Embargo.
The summoning circle, yeah. So maybe there's a different one for buffs.
Yeah.
And you want to go change out your buffs? Well, you better take a party because it's probably going to be camped.
Interesting. Something Thomas mentioned in chat earlier, and he did describe when we're talking about how powerful the buffs are versus the whole being overpowered or pay to win, because they've got this big EK and they're Bloodstone, and so they have this huge kingdom and they got all these places. He said, speaking of artifacts and relics, or the blessing specifically, he said this. He said, "I'd like them to be a useful utility as possible, so as to stay out of the must-have and pay-to-win argument." So whatever that level is, that's what they're aiming for.
That thin line between love and hate.
Yeah, sounds easy.
Yeah,
it's a definite razor's edge.
Yep.
Yeah, that's easy.
But I think it's mitigatable because, if you don't have any buffs, it shouldn't be enough difference to really affect the combat. But they're nice to haves.
That's just there's I don't think there is such a thing with gamers. It's on or it's off. That is the toughest thing. If something's optional, it's required. If there's any advantage, it's a must-have.
The min-max piece, because then it's going to be like, okay, guys, let's line up and go take this point of interest. Show me your buffs.
Yeah,
we need to have a lethality rant section.
Yeah,
because I have a feeling that we're really touching onto one of those moments where it's really more the player's fault than it is the Vevs. Am I reading you right, Bill?
Maybe, but you know what? Let me build it up for another week. Let me we can do a lethal injection segment next week.
It's percolating.
Lethal injection, because I can tell it's welling up there. I get that sense.
Once in a while, yes.
So anyway, on the idea of the artifacts and relics, just to kind of sum up my thoughts, meaningful trophies, I think they should be collectible, displayable, and I like Thomas's statement where he says we want to make them as useful as of a utility as possible, but not to the point where it becomes pay to win or game changing.
Well, and I think there's another way to mitigate that I just thought of. They're talking about artifacts and relics that give you bonuses, right? There's reasons to collect them. But what about other types of trophies that are just trophies? Your EK is big. I tweeted this out earlier. If I kill one of them big claw, whatever they're called things, in winter, can I take it as a trophy and stick it in my yard or on a head on my wall, Or these are worlds that have stuff that we have to fix and find. Maybe there's artifacts and relics that don't provide bonuses, but they're a tribute to say you found something rare in the world while you were campaigning, rewarding those that explore or control certain points. We can balance the rewards and trophies that give bonuses with those that don't, and while they may not be as meaningful to some people, it adds another layer to the game that is important, because when it comes down to it, no matter what kind of player you are, you want to have something to show for your time played. And for some people it's a leaderboard, some people it's stuff in your house, some people it's the buffs or the gear you're wearing. It's something.
And we haven't even touched on what artifacts or relics mean for like raid bosses when you fight those. Like how do they play into that?
Oh yeah, the raid bosses.
Yeah.
Let's bring that back in.
Isn't that the $2 million? That's the $2 million. Isn't that the
Yep.
$2 million
Can we get a-
stretch goal?
can we
We
get
have
a
it on good
raids?
authority. We have good
Yeah,
authority.
we
That the $2 million stretch goal is
I paid a
PE
homeless
raids.
guy 50 cents, and he said that at 2.25 million, there will be unicorn mounts
Yes.
and raid bosses.
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait. Of course, I don't know if we're going to hit that $7 million fishing mark, though, James.
7 million for fishing, Blicksteff. Come on now.
He's willing to trade it with another punt, though.
though. Crab shooting? Really?
Crab shooting.
Crab shooting.
Was that real?
That
I
was
mean, I know
real.
that's the title of our episode.
No,
Is there really a game called crab shooting?
That's
He
what- that's
tweeted
your
it out,
supposedly
crab
a
shooting.
magical
I know he
minigame.
tweeted it out, but they also tweeted out that a tutorial is a lot of work. So I wasn't
that's
sure
true.
what tone that was.
I can never tell when J Todd says anything. That's why I as much as J Todd is awesome to share stuff, I know if Gordon says stuff, there's something there. That's gonna be the best fishing ever for
Oh,
7 million.
is that
It better-
we're weighing the devs now? Which
it
one
better-
said it?
If I catch a fish at 7 million, someone mails me a fish in real life. That's how good fishing is going to have to be if we got to raise $7 million to get it.
It'll be wrapped in newspaper and probably be very ripe by the time it gets
Crab
to you.
shooting.
So it
Blitzcraft,
sounds
can
like
we get a confirmation on crab shooting as a mini game?
Yeah, what is that?
Can we-
Is that like
Can we just
Is that a real
thumbs
thing?
up or a
I was in
thumbs
meetings all
down?
day, and like I've only heard this. Is that a real thing that was mentioned
okay?
today?
So this is a good point for us to explain that we're kind of moving on now to the Twitter Q&A today
Oh, yeah.
because it was a lot of stuff that went down. Incredible barrage of questions. I had TweetDeck set up to alert me whenever that CF questions hashtag
just
was
a
used,
smile.
and it sounded like a machine gun. I mean, the thing just went off. There were so many questions. Yes,
yeah.
there were a lot of repeat questions, but there were so many questions, and Todd and Gordon were just for 2 or 3 hours just answering questions all along. But some of these answers, some of them were very good. And you figure with 140 characters, how much information can you get? Well, we found out a whole lot.
Yeah.
we did? They released a lot of
Noodling.
good information, and there's a post on it. Let me see if I can find that link. I'll put it in the
Right, because
chat for
we'll
everybody.
link the post because Elvine has started kind of a summary post in the
Yeah.
official forums that kind of take a lot of the highlight questions and kind of set it up in a Q&A format, which is really
So
cool.
Gordon jumped in just to say that noodling will be a thing. So noodling. So if you sneak into the creek, you rub the fish's belly till it falls asleep, and then you get to eat it. That is the worst. Well, here's the thing: VR minigame confirmed. Boom. There it is.
That's
it.
where the VR will
Thank
come in
you, Gordon.
handy.
Now it
Thank
makes
you.
sense.
Noodling.
That's it. Noodling. Gordon.
See, I took
confirmed
noodling
that-
different. I took
Okay, that's
noodling was a minotaur picks up a Ganeshan and throws it at the fish and bangs him on the head, brain in his noodle.
That I like.
That's,
That I
that's
like.
better
I like
than
that.
using him as one of those sponges in the shower or something. That's what I was
Well,
worried about.
maybe that's after.
Yeah, but I
During
can see
Q&A
it. Can't you see
today-
it? Here's James with his VR on. Come here, fish. I got you.
Come here, fish.
I got you, fish.
So
yeah.
So
Thanks,
Chief
Gordon.
today asked some good questions. He asked about the tutorial and the new player experience, and then Todd responded, "That sure sounds like a lot of work." And then the Crowfall Twitter account responded to Todd going, "Slacker," which was brilliant.
I want to know who was behind the Crowfall one.
That's brilliant. I bet you it was Tully.
You got to tell me.
I bet you it was Tully. But the concept of a tutorial, though, I think if you look at the history of, for example, some of Todd Coleman's work with, I think, even though it's a completely different game than Wizard 101 and Pirate 101, those games did have very, very good tutorials. Will Crowfall have a tutorial? I don't know. I played Bloodborne today. Nothing. Walk to your death and then figure out how not to die. So I don't know. But one of the questions, though, that I asked that I was very happy with the answer, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I asked this question.
We think
When somebody gets into their EK for the first time, they're a brand new character.
Mhm.
They get in their EK. How are they going to communicate with people from inside their new EK? Let's say they're brand new to the game. They just bought the game. They're in their EK. What do I do? Who do I talk to? And I was a little concerned that it might be isolated for somebody that isn't necessarily prone to go out and go meet people. And the campaigns sometimes can get kind of intense and intimidating, I think, for a brand new player that aren't maybe not used to that kind of game. Are they going to be able to build relationships in the heat of battle? But I was glad to see that there's going to be a multi-world chat system in the game where if you're in your EK, yes, James, I know it'll be lots of trade spam, I'm sure, but there will be a global chat where players can communicate from inside their EK.
I think it's a must. Yeah.
Oh, it's got to. That just turns it into a dry, worthless wasteland. Without the ability to communicate.
So I like the fact that they're going to do that, but I'm also concerned if it's just a global chat without any potential to restrict it. And the reason why I say that is because we all know the Barons chats, they can turn into absolute mud and turn off a new player just as quickly as they could help them. So while I like the potential, I'm hoping that there is some user control that allows you how much or how little that you can get in. Whether it's multiple channels or whatever, there needs to be something there. And the counterpoint to that is I hope it's not a global chat in a campaign. And that's probably a whole nother topic, but I think that in itself could cause some problems depending on how they do that communication. So I'll shift over to you guys. What do you think?
Yeah, see, I think that might work to an advantage for Artcraft in that they don't have this humongous budget. It's coming from Kickstarter, so they're not going to be able to come up with features or like a really rich chat system with a lot of filters. I actually think that in this case, it is what it is, sort of applies. And yes, you don't want to turn people off, but they did join a hopefully well-marketed PvP hardcore-ish MMO. So if they go in there, expecting not, or if they're going to be offended easily by someone talking in chat or something, I know there's a line, but I don't know how many controls.
Oh, that was a good move. You killed me. But you're a really good player. I can see this kind of thing happening all day in chat, right?
Yeah. So
my two favorite words.
Shucky darn! The four of you got me. I don't know what your guild name means, Gankerific.
Yeah.
But wait right here. I'll be right back.
Well, that leads to a whole nother discussion, James, about tags and being able to tell who somebody is. But we can save that for another show.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
But you make very good points, Bill, and you're right. I think the limited amount of budget and there's not going to be a lot of flexibility, but there needs to be at least a modicum, even if it's just turn it on, turn it off.
Yeah.
And then one part of that, when you bring in the budget, was one part of the piece that was discussed about, I believe, in the MMO Online article today, was about add-ons and how J. Todd had mentioned that he'd had add-ons in the previous game. And, for all we know, depending on if they allow it, we don't know if they will allow mods. But for all we know, the community will then create its own mods. I'm hoping it's not like the Hot Cup of Coffee mod from Rockstar Games or something, but who knows? But depending on what they allow us to see, allow us to mark another player, allow us to expand or contract. I'm always worried about the ability to allow access via API for something I can't right-click and see on a character. So again, another thin line. So far, we've been doing nothing but discussing the thin lines where Blickstev and team will have to walk between uber and fail, or hard and easy, or too powerful and too weak. But I guess that's what makes, that separates the people who write MMOs from the people who do, board games.
I was going to say, isn't that our charter? Did you read our intro? That's what we're supposed to do. Talk about the thin lines.
Ooh, and slam to people who make board games.
Thank you. Thanks.
So,
one last one on the. I did I did notice that in one of the comments, there was a talk about was your EK per character or per account? I mean, we all made the assumption that it's the EK is per account because you're backing it, you get an EK. But I thought it was little bits and pieces of some of the stuff that's shared. I think the questions that we saw was useful to finding out where people are at in the community, how much information have they chased down before asking questions. And to be honest, I didn't see a lot of questions out there that were like one click away, easy answers. I felt like Crowfall were handling some pretty hard questions, some in-depth questions that would have, well, if you're not Tully and just trolling, would take you a couple of seconds or reach over your shoulders and have a little powwow before you have to answer. I thought some of the questions were hard, and I think hard questions from the community shows that they're active and engaged.
Agreed.
Yeah. I just took a look at that thread from Elvine, and that was really good work. I'm going to have to go back and read all that.
Yeah, and they did answer
I'm actually
that question.
Looking at one of the questions from there that relates on a little bit of our joking from earlier. And if there's somebody listening to the cast, whether live here in chat or on a recording, we were joshing about raids and PvE raiding and things like that. But the reality is there are some people who kind of know traditional MMOs. They're kind of used to those and assume that a lot of those things will be in there. And one of the questions that came through on Twitter was this: what kinds of things can we see in Crowfall endgame, raiding, PvP, etc.? And I think that's a very good question. And the answer that was given was everything in Crowfall is endgame. Yeah. So from the beginning to the end, the game you play is the game you play. Crowfall is Crowfall. It's not going to have PvE raids. It's not going to have big bosses. It's not going to have instances of any kind. And that's the game this is. So I know we were kind of joking about that, but we knew coming in that this game was going to be quite a bit different than some of the games that we've been following in the past.
And that's really the challenge too for any MMO developer. And I feel like right now, just in the last year or two, we've gotten to the place where it's still a challenge, but people are willing to take the leap and sort of get off of this train that maybe Warcraft was their first MMO or something. They're willing to explore and accept that there's another way to do this, and I really hope that's this renaissance we're going to see here of maybe smaller titles, but more focused and on some systems and some play styles that are in theory not as user friendly, but provide their fun in a whole nother way. So I really think, and Crowfall's kind of at the lead of that pack. I think it can help others break through.
Yeah, and Gordon really put it well. He said, creating community through the adversity of the game. And I think that really kind of spells out what Crowfall is going to be.
Mm-hmm. That's EVE in a nutshell, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so real quick, who do you think, was there any purchasing? Because, can you buy your guild name? Because who's buying Goons, right? Because, I'm just like, do you think one of the 10K purchasers, when they're out to dinner with J Todd and Gordon as part of the 10K package, you just get to write down your name on your guild name and slide it across the table like it's a piece of paper, and it just happens. Sorry, that's what I see in my mind. I'm like, oh look, J Todd, I'm ordering the fish. So noodling's in, right? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
You're just trying to crowdfund your 10K pledge, aren't you?
Yeah,
still got a Kickstarter coming up for that, don't you?
I'm going the other way. I'm going to do a change.org petition that OnRes gets a multiplier of 500 times his donation. So it's
how that works out for you, buddy.
Yeah, pretty sure I'm going to get like tens of signatures.
Oh, I'll sign it.
-10?
I'll sign it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man.
All right. Well, we're coming up towards the end here, and we did have another question out over on the Crush the Throne forums. Did I say that right?
Yes.
You got it.
Yes.
Forums. It sounds perfect.
Forums. And it's from the Martini again. She's very interested in hearing us talk about
something in the mail.
Yeah. So the question is, would it be possible to set an EK as a guild EK? And I think this question is partially touched on the Q&A on Twitter today. And is it possible to make a trade of EK owners? And so I didn't see that specifically answered. And the ownership if somebody leaves a guild. I think land is tied to the person.
The account, yes.
And while you can set up a guild structure on someone's specific land, I don't think there's any way to actually change ownership of the guild. Basically, if whoever's king of your guild quits, everybody needs to move, which you can do, all your plots to somebody else's and make them king of the guild. So I think that's how guild leadership would change. But what are your thoughts?
The only interesting part, though, would be, let's say, we're all here in a guild, and whoever, quote unquote, loots the artifact from winning the campaign, we don't all probably get copies of that artifact, right? I mean, if everyone has the artifact, and then it's less special. So we decide, because Chief has the largest and most popular EK and it's getting good traffic, let's drop it there. Let's turn it into the mini Soho of EKs. Chief decides to no longer play. We can pick up a lot of things, but anything that was tied to that guild related to loot too, can that artifact, once it's been dropped, be traded to somebody? Can the rights, because I know you can set Chief could set Aerowolf to also manage his EK, to build, to whatever. So if the rights also include the ability to pick up the artifact and then move it to the next guild EK, boy, that would be helpful. I don't know, from a sync, less stuff means more I can sell. So it's really interesting about what it could be.
Well, they did say all of those could be traded. So I think it comes down to the permissions set in the ownership and over. So that is a consideration. I think if the guild leader has control of all the guild artifacts and relics, personally, not just because he's gave permission for some of them to be placed on land he's vassaled people to, then he could up and quit and take it all. I think that's part of the strategy that they said, that stealing is going to be perfectly acceptable. Just like in EVE, if you infiltrate somebody else's guild and they let you have control and you up and pull up your property and leave,
sure,
it's all yours. So
yeah, you're going to need to see in real life DNA and fingerprints, background checks, probably credit checks.
Just be careful when you join James. He will bankrupt you, put you into servitude, and then you won't be able to leave.
I'm gonna put a car alarm on my relics.
That's it.
I get like a text message if somebody touches it.
Well, we're going to use the text system to let everybody know where you're at, so we can have you killed repeatedly. So you buy gear from us.
I'm sure that'll happen. I'm
they give us a
sure
tip.
That will happen. I have no doubt.
But it's a very interesting question, because it really does affect how things, since land is managed by the person, but guild functions are a separate entity. How do you marry those two and at least try and keep things reasonable? But we go back to the same thing. It's a sandbox. You decide.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. I think a lot of the answers comes down to what you just said, Franklin. It's a sandbox. You decide. I think that could be the tagline underneath Crowfall. Crowfall. It's a sandbox. You decide. I think that's perfect. Do we feel like we covered that question pretty well, guys?
I think so.
I think we took a couple swings at it.
I think this is probably a good place to end this week's discussion. Boy, that hour went fast. For anybody that would like to chat with us in between shows, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Gold and Glory PC or on Facebook at Gold and Glory Podcast. And again, don't forget, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, we will be live with the Crowfall developers, and we are so excited that they have been willing to come on the show and chat with all of us. You guys are in for a treat. We can't wait. We're in for a treat. We can't wait. So exciting stuff. By the way, that episode tomorrow will be recorded and treated just like a regular episode. It'll be on our iTunes feed for anybody that's subscribed on iTunes as well. As far as us, those of us here on the show, again, my name is Aerawolf. You can follow me on Twitter at Aerawolf, ARAWULF. I also host a blog at thewolfden.com. Bill, how do people find you, sir?
Just Twitter for now. It's at real_lethality, and I'm on there, pretty much all day. And tomorrow, I just want to say, is going to be a great show, not just because the devs will be here with us, but I mean that is the waning hours of the Kickstarter. By tomorrow, that'll be like only eight or so hours left, so it'll be great.
Absolutely,
telethon style.
Yes.
Oh my God! Yeah, Jerry Lewis telethon. We're talking furious down to the end.
That's right.
Absolutely, Andres. How do people find you, sir?
Really, I'm only best digested 140 characters or less at a time. So at Anrez, ANHREZ. I stalk the forums. I'm trying to get more and more engaged. I like to hear people's thoughts. I'm a huge fan of supposition and unfounded ideas. So hopefully we'll see you out in the forums and we'll share some ideas.
Finally, Chief Sarkhan, how about you, sir?
I am the Chief Sarkhan. You can find me on Twitter at Chief_Sarkhan and pretty much any other social media that you can think of. Twitter is best. You can also, like James said, find us on the different forums, Crush the Throne and the official forums are good places to engage.
Yeah.
For the interviews we're doing tomorrow, head over to Crush the Throne and put your questions, and as we filter in what we want to talk about, maybe some of your questions will make it in. This is a group show. We want to hear from you just as much as you want to hear from us. So we look forward to having the band on tomorrow on the couch, ready for us to, what do they call that, roast? I'm going to roast
There you
them.
go. It's the roast.
It's the roast.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
It's Dev Roast.
We ain't talking about nothing serious. We're just going to roast them. No questions answered. Okay, maybe a few.
Well, we do hope to see everybody again real soon, and we do encourage you to continue your quest for gold and glory. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
See you.
It was great.